So Alan, welcome to 442. We're going to do a little Euro 96 look back.
Good.
Some iconic tournament for
Good
England.
times.
Indeed. Pre-tournament, then presumably you would be raring to go. You were, you know, in the prime of your career. England had missed USA 94, and there'd been no competitive games for 2 years. So you must have been ready to go.
Well, I was ready to go, but I hadn't scored in those competitive games leading up to the tournament for 2 years. So it was about 13 games, if I remember rightly. So I was ready to go, but I was also under huge pressure from everyone, including my teammates, the manager, the fans, because of the number of forwards that were around then that were also scoring goals on a regular basis. I mean, I'd scored for Blackburn. I think I'd got 34 that season. So it wasn't as if I wasn't scoring, but I just couldn't score for England leading up to the tournament. And then Terry Venables pulled me to one side about a month before the tournament and sort of said to me, whatever happens, you will be my #1 centre forward and you will start that first game against Switzerland. And I just thought, wow, for him to have that belief in me, then I felt as if I couldn't let him down and I had to go out. And I mean, luckily I scored in the first game against Switzerland. And then went on to finish top scorer. So God knows what would have happened if I hadn't scored. But yeah, I owed Terry a lot for having the belief in me.
I suppose the story of Euro 96 starts for England in China. Can you remember why that was picked as a destination for the pre-tournament warm-up games?
Haven't got a clue. China and Hong Kong. I remember more about in Hong Kong in the dentist chair than I do the games, to be honest. Yeah, we were on our... We'd finished and we're on our way home and we decided to go out, or we were let out to go out for a few drinks. That turned into a few more and a few more, and then before we know it there was one or two in the dentist chair and things had gone a bit too far. I was sort of there, but I was at the back, you know. I could see everything happening, but I was like hiding away at the back. And then I just thought, this is not going to really be a good look if this gets out, and it did. And then all hell broke loose. But to be fair to the manager Terry, he sort of stuck by us, and he used that as a rod really for us to repay him. And everyone loved him. We all respected him. He was an amazing coach and like a genius as a man manager, and he used that to his strength. And we all got together and we'd realised what had happened. We realised that how bad it looked, and being front page instead of back page. Yeah, and he used that to his advantage, and it worked. I mean, because as I said, we all respected him and got on great with him, and we're all determined not to let him down.
Did the problem start when Terry sent Brian Robson to be the chaperone for that evening? It's not a good idea, really.
Yeah, I mean, Robbo was renowned for us having as good time as anyone, and he was a great bloke, Robbo, and still is, obviously. But probably not the wisest of ideas to send Robbo out and keep an eye on us. But yeah, everyone loved him, and he got on with everyone as well. But we all know Robbo did like a pint or two, yeah.
Very sensible move from you as a 25-year-old, though, to sort of back away when you noticed things were getting a bit lively.
Well, I don't know whether that was through luck or that was other people I was with. I was with the Umbro guys. Good friend of mine, Simon Marsh, who was with us, and sort of he was the one that sort of kept me back at the bar, really, rather than going into the centre, into the dentist chair.
We'll get to the football in a bit. I'm still very interested in China because a lot obviously happened. The flight home. 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 says in his book that he was asleep on the plane until someone slapped him in the face.
Don't know who that was.
Yeah, and well, he did say actually it was you.
Oh, really?
Book. I don't know if we need to get the lawyers involved, but was that yourself, or because that caused a bit of a excitable 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 on the flight?
I don't think 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 needed any prompting to be excitable, but I honestly, to this day, I couldn't tell you whether it was me or not, and I wouldn't take his word for it. But someone must have done something to upset him, you know. But yeah, he didn't need much prompting, did he? But honestly, I couldn't tell you whether it was me or not, and I'm not just saying that.
Fair enough. It was an interesting summer for yourself as well, because your club future was up in the air. Can you remember what your frame of mind was? Because would have presumably been quite a big distraction, but obviously it didn't distract you when the tournament actually started.
No, it wasn't a distraction at all, because I just said I'm putting everything on hold until after the tournament, and that's exactly what I did. I knew how important the tournament was. I knew how much I had to go out and score, and I couldn't let anything else get in the way of that. So, as tough as it was parked. It was parked until after the tournament. And I didn't speak to anyone regarding my future at club level at all during the tournament, and it was all going to be done after it.
Did you think you were leaving Blackburn though that summer?
Not really, no. I knew that I had big decisions to make, but there was also still an opportunity or a chance that I was going to stay at Blackburn. I hadn't a clue what I was going to do. I knew that I had chances. I knew that we'd sort of finished further down the league than I wanted to after winning the league the season before. But no, honestly, I didn't have a clue what I was going to do.
Does Alan Shearer get nervous before games? You'd have been forgiven for being nervous before that
No,
Switzerland
not excited, not nervous. I mean, I had a bit of the knot in the stomach, but I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's nerves. I think that was excitement rather than anything. But I never really got nervous. No, I just wanted to get out there and get started.
And where does the Switzerland goal rank? A huge relief to get to open.
I think in terms of importance, it was one of the most important goals I ever scored. I mean, it wasn't one of the better goals. It was a good pass. It was a good run and a decent finish. But in terms of importance, yeah, right up there.
Was the Scotland game the biggest game of your career to date at that stage, do you think?
Not really, no. In terms for England or at club level? Or
I think just the magnitude of playing Scotland, and both teams had drawn their opening games. It was just felt like a massive game at the time.
No, it was a huge game. I mean, in terms of being the most important in my career, probably not. But in terms of it being a big game, yeah, it was big. I mean, all England-Scotland games, whether at Wembley or Hampden or wherever it may be, are big games. But that game could have went either way as well. I mean, we hadn't played fantastically well against Switzerland. We drew the game. We didn't play really well either against Scotland. We got a little bit of luck with them missing the penalty, because if they score that penalty, then who knows? They miss it, and then within a few minutes we're up at the other end, and 𝗘𝗧𝗧𝗏 scores that brilliant goal. And it's really funny actually, because not many people remember who scored the first goal. Obviously I do, but everyone remembers, and rightly so, because that was such an iconic moment in English football, to do it against Scotland at Wembley in a major tournament, 𝗘𝗧𝗏, and the brilliance of the goal was something else. There's not many people could have done that, if any.
There'd been calls for him to be dropped before the game, but you did just feel he had that moment of brilliance in him, and so it proved.
Yeah, I mean, there was plenty of calls for him not even being in the squad. I mean, but Terry knew him better than anyone, and he loved Terry. He had a respect for him, and it was vice versa. So I think Terry knew that 𝗘𝗧𝗏 owed him, and we all owed him. And again, it was how good he was at the man management thing, Terry, and using that to his advantage and the team's advantage. So if anyone was going to do that, then it was going to be 𝗘𝗧𝗏.
And when he did score, your reaction was brilliant. You ran straight to the bottle and did the dentist chair.
We did the dentist chair. That was all planned. Whoever was going to be nearest to whoever scored, then yeah, that celebration was always planned and well planned, and it worked out pretty well. Yeah. And
obviously, just prior to that was Gary McAllister's missed penalty. The moving ball. Did you see that at the time?
Didn't see it at all. No, I didn't see it. I just was I wasn't far behind it, but I didn't see the ball move at all until after the game. Yeah.
Did you chat about that in the dressing room with the players? Did anyone reference that?
Not that I can remember, to be honest. No. I mean, who was the guy that tried to claim that he moved it? Who was
𝗔𝗫𝗧𝗏.
That's it, 𝗔𝗫𝗧𝗏. Yeah. I remember reading about that nonsense, but I don't remember it too much being mentioned in the dressing room. No.
The following game, Holland, they were the tournament favourites, 9-2 favourites to win. England's performance was like shockingly good. Did it take you by surprise, or did you feel like England had a performance like that?
No, I felt as if there was something special happening before the game on the way there, because the atmosphere was sort of building after the Scotland game. You know, the confidence and the belief in the country, and the thousands of people that started to line the streets when we got within a mile or two of Wembley. the music got a bit louder on the bus, you know, and the atmosphere on the way to the game, and everyone else was getting that a little bit more excited. But I didn't see us putting in that performance against them. No, I mean, I felt we could win, but not as convincingly as we did. That was probably the best England atmosphere I played in, and without doubt, I think a highlight of my career with England. And the atmosphere during the game, before the game, and particularly after, was just, it was off the charts. And it was when we went back to the hotel as well. You know, we had such a great atmosphere and we had such a great squad. And I think that was probably the first time we felt we could perhaps go on and win this.
Your second goal against the Dutch, was that the best team goal you've ever been involved in? You overloaded them and found the extra man, which was you, and you powered it into the top corner.
Yeah, I mean, Terry, as I said, I've mentioned Terry a few times, because of how good he was. I mean, we talk now about how Pep and Jurgen changed systems, changed players into. Terry was doing that back in '96. You know, we played 3 or 4 different systems during that game, and we knew we were going to change. We knew we were going to flip into a 3 at the back or 4 at the back, or Gary Neville was going to push further upfield, or whatever it was. We knew that we were going to play different systems, and that's how good he was. But to do it against an opposition, how good they were, and to make them look as poor as we did, then we felt that was in us, but not as much as that.
𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 famously scored late and sent Scotland
home. Yeah, that
home.
was a perfect evening, wasn't it? Because us scoring 4, winning the game, and then us conceding 1, which ultimately knocked Scotland out, didn't it? So it was a perfect evening, yeah.
The Venables regarded Spain as stronger than Italy, Germany and Holland, and that was who England played in the quarter-final. It was the first time England had experienced a golden goal situation as well. How did that affect you as a player? Did you think it sort of tightened things up in extra time?
Yeah, it was all a bit. It wasn't a great game, that. I mean, it was a bit tight and tense, and could have went either way. But what I remember about that is I know I'd scored the first penalty, but I was also aware of who was coming next. You know, knew that 𝗬𝗫𝗧𝗏 was coming after his miss in '90. Him and 𝐻ris the miss, and for someone to step up again and say, "Give me the penalty," and it was redemption time, if you like. I mean, I can't tell you the pressure that you're under, and the walk from the halfway line to the penalty spot is the longest walk you'll ever make in your life. There's a million things going through your head. When it's going well, there's a million things going through, and when you've missed a penalty like he has, and the size of it and the enormity of missing a penalty in a World Cup, then to say, "Oh, all right, I'll take another one." And I mean, I think we were all probably as worried as he was. And you can tell even now, if you look at the pictures of it or the videos of it, the reaction and the relief on his face more than anything is incredible.
Nothing was said in the Spanish press of Herrero and Nadal, who missed the Spanish penalties, and they've rarely been asked about it afterwards. Yet Southgate, Waddle, Pearce, they get asked about. I suppose that tells us a lot, really, about the English mentality towards.
Well, I mean, it might be different in their country. The questions in Spain would have been probably as intense as they were here when Waddle and Pearce missed, I guess. But just because we're in our country, I suppose we focus more on that. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. You know, missing a penalty of that size, and I mean, you've got millions of people watching on television all around the world and in England or wherever. You've got the 90,000 in the stadium who are watching you. But I think you're under more pressure because of the 10 or 20 guys behind you and your team who you don't want to let down, you know. And that's why you're under the most pressure. So it's a bloody tough walk, that is. But it's probably even tougher if you haven't hit the back of the net. Thankfully, I never experienced that.
I mean, thankfully, England won a penalty shootout, and it set up a famous game against Germany in the semi-final. Is it true you forgot the 3 lines tape to play on the bus on the way to Wembley? Is that story true?
No, not that I remember. No, I wasn't aware it was my job. I mean, I wasn't captain then in '96, so I was captain a couple of months after that. But it wasn't I don't think that was my job to remember that. But I always remember those coach journeys from the hotel to the ground. They were brilliant. I mean, because you're on your own, you're in the zone, the music's blasting and everything else, and yeah, there were good moments, but no, I can't remember that, no.
Fair enough. Can you remember when you first heard the song? And it caught on after the Scotland game, I think.
I remember, yeah, when we were asked to take part in it, I'm thinking, what the am I doing, getting involved in a video of, I mean, you know, when you go into cup finals and you see all these players making prats of themselves when they go into get involved in this song, and that's, I think, I'm not Skinner and 𝗫𝗫𝗧𝗏, you know, I was thinking, but then it was such an iconic song. I mean, even now fans are singing it before the Euros and what have you for England, so in a strange way, it was great to be a part of, yeah.
Do you ever pop it on quietly?
I can't remember the last time I played it, no, but I was forever playing it during Euro '96, even at night time, you know, it was blasting out of my room, yeah.
So between '66 and '96, it was obviously the 30 years of hurt. England had played Germany 13 times, lost 9 of those games, won 2 friendlies, yet we played them in the semi-final. You scored after 133 seconds. Did you think, this is it, we're destined to get to the final?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Well, I think we thought that after Holland, you know, and then to win a penalty shootout against Spain, I thought, you just, you know, when you just get that feeling that this might just be it. And then me scoring after a minute and a half, yeah, in the semi-final, yeah, we got the feeling that that was it. But we knew, because of who they were and what they were, Germany, at times against good opposition, you're going to have to suffer, and it's, I suppose you need a little bit of luck here and there. They could have won it, we could have won it with 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 in extra time. But then it goes down to penalties again, yeah.
The game became, you know, they equalised, the game became tense, but I felt in extra time England, who were naturally a more attacking team, they seemed to go for it. Was that instruction from 𝗘𝗫𝗏𝗏 to let's try and get this done with the golden goal in extra time?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, that was Terry was always positive. That was always his mentality, was that we were better than them. We could take the game more to them. We had more energy. But you have your penalty takers, but very, very rarely are those, you know, still on the pitch. At times, you know, you've got, I don't know, you look at tiredness or you look at whatever. But if I remember rightly, I mean, there were 10 unbelievable penalties, from 5 from us and 5 from Germany. And then you're into, I'm reluctant to say the also-rans, but then you're into the guys who really don't want to take a penalty. And it was one where, okay, and you can see 1 or 2 heads going down when the manager's who's looking around to who wants to take the penalty after the first 5 that are chosen, or who are the first 5 who have said yeah and practiced. But then you're into, I think you're into luck land really of what happens after that.
Those players you say who put their heads down, can you remember the conversations? Do you hold any resentment towards those lads who didn't want to step up?
Nah, never. Because if you're asked, you've got to be honest in that situation, because it is really tough. It's really hard, you know. That if you've never taken penalties and you've never been in that situation, then the manager looks at you and says, "Do you want one?" Or if you're putting your head down in the hope that the manager doesn't ask you because you don't want to be looked upon as weak, I guess. But then you're into who's brave or who's stupid, I guess. And Gareth was one of the brave ones and sort of put his hand up and said, and I guess maybe in hope, because think that it probably won't get past the 5 that have put their hands up. So. Yeah, I remember it well, and looking around and thinking, okay, we probably should be all right here, because I was confident with who we'd had, because we'd already won 1 shootout in the quarterfinal.
And I mean, you can be critical of as a striker of Gareth's penalty. It was a bit weak. It was too central. Can you remember how he was afterwards? Can you remember? Did you speak to him in the change room?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was just in console mode, you know, just to make sure he was all right. And you had to face the reality of it. I mean, we'd been away for a month, and it's a long month. You're getting into the last few days of the tournament, although we're all devastated, and he was. I mean, he had to live with that, still does now. I mean, I suppose it's out of his system now because he's won a penalty shootout as a manager. But you have to live with that for the rest of your life, which is tough. As you've got to go back to pre-season, you've got to go back to playing. So as I said, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, because it's such a really difficult situation to be in. So there was no animosity, there was no anger. It was just, we were proud because we'd given everyone something to shout of. It was such a great tournament, but it just wasn't to be.
You mentioned that 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 moment in extra time. You volleyed it across to him. My read of that is sort of his football and IQ was so high. He's tried to read the goalkeeper's parry and hesitated.
Yeah, there's just that. I mean, I've watched it a million times, as you can imagine. I'm thinking, what the f did you stop for? You know, it's like, but yeah, he just has that. He just has that split second, which maybe that made all the difference. I suppose it was. I don't know why he hesitated. I don't know what the reason was. Perhaps he thought he could get to it and then stopped again and what have you. I mean, it was a cross-come shot for me. It was one of those where if you hit it at the far post, someone might get on the end of it, but no one did.
He said if it was the other way around, him volleying it to you, your instinct would have been to go to the ball.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I don't know. You'd never know that, but I guess so, yeah.
Did you watch the final? Czech Republic were 80
I
to
did.
1.
You know, I'm in I suppose I'm putting my selfish head on here. Yeah, I remember watching it and sat there like that, because I think if there was one thing to come out of the tournament, then at least I could walk away with a golden boot. But I was also aware that if 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔-𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗠 had scored a hat-trick, and there was every chance, because you're playing the Czech Republic, who weren't great. I mean, it's pretty much a given whoever won between us and Germany were going to go on and win the tournament. So I sat there with my hands over my face, hoping and praying that Jürgen wouldn't score, so I could at least take home the golden boot.
442 is 30 years old this year. Our first ever cover was 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, so we'll leave the last word to Terry. He did multiple systems during Euro 96. He should be given credit for backing you, coming into it on a barren run.
Yeah.
Where does he rank in terms of managers he played under?
He was a genius. Everyone loved him. Everyone respected him. He made training really difficult but really enjoyable, that so much that you didn't really want to come off the training ground. And yeah, he was ahead of his time. What Pep and what Jürgen are doing now, he was doing in '96 and before that.
Brilliant. Alan,
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.